So you'll see we're a large service-taking contingent this morning, and we're very pleased to be here, and I'm very pleased to be able to share this morning's service with a good friend, fellow congregant, Robyn. So we're, and of course, as usual, Vince.
Oh, as usual.
who never lets me down. And we will be beginning on 117, and you'll see that Robyn and I will be switching sort of back and forth in different sections of the service today. And this is Robyn's first time, so but she's going to be really good at it because she's worked at it a lot.
We've got no heckling then.
No heckling. You will all behave. And Shabbat shalom to everybody. Are we ready to go?
We're live.
We're live. Okay, so Shabbat shalom to all of you out there that I can't see and have no idea who you are. And if at any time anybody thinks it's too cold in here, you feel free to go and shut that. I was just trying to air the place out because I'm terribly allergic to lilies, and there were bouquets that were left in here for a week, and I really lost my voice last night. Okay.
117, Martin Green, Kingston.
We thank you, O God, for this new day, for morning sun and evening star, for flowering of tree and flowing of tide, for life-giving rains and cooling breezes, for changing seasons, and for the cycle of growth and decay, of life and death. We awake and behold a new day. O God, renew us unto life. Teach us to recognize your presence in creation. Grateful for your gifts, may we dedicate all our powers to your service. And let's read responsibly.
I can't
We-
find it.
118.
What?
118. 118.
One.
You ready? We praise you, eternal God, sovereign of the universe, for eyes to see.
We
Praise you, eternal God, sovereign of the universe, for clothes to wear.
We praise you, eternal God, sovereign of the universe, for the joy of freedom.
We praise you, eternal God, sovereign of the universe, for the craft of our hands.
We praise you, eternal God, sovereign of the universe, for providing for all of our needs.
We
Praise you, eternal God, sovereign of the universe, for daily renewing our strength.
We praise you, eternal God, sovereign of the universe, for the blessing of sleep and the privilege of waking to a new day. Now, I am going to read an alternate version of Baruch Shema, which is on page 119. This version comes from the Mishkan Tefillah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Blessed is the one who spoke and the world came to be. Blessed is the one. Blessed is the one who continually authors creation. Blessed is the one whose word is deed. Blessed is the one who redeems and fulfills. Blessed is the one who is compassionate towards the world. Blessed is the one who is compassionate towards all creatures. Blessed is the one who rewards the reverent. Blessed is the one who exists for all time, ever enduring. Blessed is the one who redeems and saves. Blessed is God's name. With songs of praise we extol you and proclaim your sovereignty, for you are the source of life in the universe. One God, life of the universe, praised and glorious leader. Your name is eternal. Baruch atah Adonai melech mehulal v'tishbachat. Right, now please turn to page 134. And we're going to sing Psalms 150.
Page 135, we rise, V'yishtabach. Yishtabach Shemcha L'ad Malkeinu, Ha'el HaMelech HaGadol V'HaKadosh B'Shamayim U'Ba'aretz. Ki Lacha Na'eh Adonai Eloheinu, Yelohei Avotenu, Shir U'Shvacha, Halel V'Zimra, Berachot V'Hodaot, Me'ata V'Yad Olam, Baruch Atah Adonai, Habocher B'Shirei Zimra. The next prayer in this section is all about light and dark, day and night, and the cycles of creation. And it reminds us that it's a continual cycle, that every day is a new day. Every day we have that chance to start over and to build our lives and the world the way we want them to be. So we're going to not just read, but this time we're going to do some singing. I do love this song, so I'm determined to teach it.
Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, melech haolam, yotzer orei Moshe, oseh shalom u'lerecho. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night.
Baruch atah Adonai Yotzer HaMeorot. In the middle of page 136, we join together. Great is your love for us, eternal God, and abundant your compassion. Our ancestors trusted in you, and you taught them the laws of life. So be gracious to us and teach us. Incline our hearts to hear your words, to know and understand, to learn and teach, and with love to uphold the truths of your Torah. Enlighten us with your teaching. Make us faithful to your commandments and wholehearted in the love and awe of your name. For in love you summon us to serve you and proclaim your unity. We praise you, O God. In love you have called your people Israel to serve you. Please stand.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai, Adonai Echad. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך, ושילמתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובפניך, וקשרתם לאות על ידך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם אלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם. Next, please be seated. Continuing at the bottom of page 138. Good and beautiful and true, sound, established and enduring are these words, now and forever. True it is, Eternal One, that you are our sovereign God and Redeemer, as you were the God and Redeemer of our ancestors. You are our Maker, the rock of our salvation. We have known you always as our helper and our liberator. There is no God but you. Truly, you are first and you are last. We have no Redeemer but you. You redeemed us from Egypt and freed us from the house of bondage. Then with great joy, Moses, Miriam, and all of Israel sang to you this song.
On page 140, we rise, and just before we go into the 140, just before we go into the Amidah, I want to read a poem that one of my dear rabbinic colleagues, Eli Tikva wrote, which I think is a very good introduction to what is, after all, the tefillah, the standing prayer, often called the Amidah, standing prayer. Standing before the Eternal, standing between sitting in your home and walking along the way, between staying here and going there, anywhere, before that, before doing anything, standing here, Hineni, here I am, now at this moment, present, being, senses alert, listening, apprehending, waiting. And then, my lips open, ancestors on my back, powers in my hands, to destroy and create, to oppress and liberate, to wound and heal, to die and live. In this sacred moment, I reach beyond myself to find myself, other selves, and you, and accept your gift of ceasing, relinquishing. Pausing in this stillness, I reach within myself to draw out tears and thanks, hurts and fears. Tumbling together with blessings, this strange concoction is enough. My cup overflows. Shalom, shalom, wholeness, peace. And so we rise as we prepare to open our lips.
Ufim
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el, Hagadol, Hagibor, V'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei Hakol, V'Zocher Chazdei Avot V'Imachot, V'Mevi Gula Lifnei V'neihem, V'Ma'an Shemo V'Yahava, Melech Hoser Moshiach U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, Ezra Sarah. Atah Gibor le'olam Adonai, B'chayei metim atah, Rav l'Hoshia. Mashiv haruach, u'morid hageshem, Mazriach hashemesh, u'morid hatal.
Achachel chayim b'chesed, B'chayei metim b'rachamim rabim. Somech noflim rofei cholim, u'matir asurim, u'mekayem oneto l'shenei afar. Michamoch hara geburot, u'midomei lach, melech meimit u'mekayem, u'matzmiach Yeshua.
B'nei aman atah l'chachayot metim, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayei hametim.
Nekadesh et Shimcha ba'olam, B'shem shemakdishim oto b'shmei marom, Kagatu ayad nevi'echa, ayad nevi'echa. Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzevaot, Lo haaretz kevodo.
Kevodo malei olam.
Baruch Kavod Adonai Mimkomo.
B'nkumecha malkeinu tofia, v'timloch aleinu, ki mechachim anachnu lach.
Yimloch Adonai le'olam, Elohai Tzion, Adon Adon, Hallelujah. Adon Adon, Adon Adon, Adon Adon, Hagid God Lechon, Adon Adon, Adon Adon, Adon Adon, Hagid God Lechon, U'lenetzach netzakim, U'lenetzach netzakim, Kedushata, Kedushata Lakish. U'lenetzach netzakim, U'lenetzach netzakim, Kedushata, Kedushata Lakish. Adon Adon, Adon Adon, Adon Adon, Hagid God Lechon, Adon Adon, Adon Adon, Hagid God Lechon. V'shivcha Eloheinu mipinu lo yamush le'olam va'ed. Shivcha Eloheinu mipinu lo yamush le'olam va'ed.
You may be seated. You inspired our ancestors to hallow this day for your service. When upon its coming we pause to contemplate our life, we learn anew that we do not live by bread alone, but also by the spiritual nourishment we receive when we open ourselves to your influence. We thank you for the Sabbath day and for the opportunity it offers to enhance the quality of our lives. We thank you for its joy and for its peace. May our worship help us to take into our hearts its message of holiness and consecrate all of our days by devotion to what is true, beautiful, and good. Our God and God of our ancestors, may our rest on this day be pleasing in your sight. Sanctify us by your commandments and make us loyal to your teaching. Satisfy us with your goodness and gladden us with your salvation, and purify our hearts to serve you in truth. In your gracious love, eternal one, let the holiness of your Sabbath enter our hearts, and may all Israel who hallow your name be exalted by its praise. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh ha-Shabbat. Eternal God, be gracious to your people Israel, and in your love accept their prayers. May our worship now and always be acceptable in your sight. We praise you, O God, to whom alone we worship in reverence. We give thanks that you, Eternal One, are our God, as you were the God of our ancestors. You are the rock of our life and the power that shields us in every age. We thank and praise you for our lives, which are in your hand, for our souls, which are in your keeping, for the signs of your presence we encounter every day, and for your wondrous gifts at all times, morning, noon, and night. We praise you, God, source of goodness, to whom our thanks are due. Now we will take a few moments for silent prayer.
shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol Yomei. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Adam. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Adam.
And we turn to now the service for reading of Torah, which we'll find on page 490. And I am going to ask Philip if you would mind taking the scroll out. And I need two people to open the ark. I haven't. Do you want to come up? Thank you. And maybe Sandra? Yeah, all right. So, as it says, assemble the people. Yeah? So that's you.
Me.
Well, the people that are coming up. So we're on 490, so it's you, Sandra, and you. So, okay? Assemble the people.
I'm assembled.
No, we don't need you, Philip. I'm sorry. I love you, but I don't need you this
thank
time.
you.
But I do need Sandra. I need Sandra.
You're also most important.
Okay.
And I need Philip. Okay. Assemble the people, men, women, and children, and the strangers in your cities, to hear and learn to revere the Eternal One, your God, and observe faithfully all the precepts of this Torah, and let their children who do not yet know it hear, that they too may learn to revere the Eternal One, your God. And we rise. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Gadol Adonai iti, u'ne'ero riba, Shemo Yachdav.
sit.
Yes, you can sit. Sorry. loads of people up here and nobody has the sense to tell you that you can sit down. So today's Torah reading is a double portion, Achrei Mot Kedoshim, and I'm going to be reading from Kedoshim. And I'm only just going to read actually a few verses from Torah, from the scroll, but I'm going to read a bit more in English. So this is how this portion goes. The Eternal One spoke to Moses, saying, "Speak to the whole Israelite community, and say to them, you shall be holy, for I, the Eternal your God, am holy. You shall each revere his mother and father, and keep my Sabbaths. I, the Eternal, am your God. Do not turn to idols or make molten gods for yourselves. I, the Eternal, am your God. When you sacrifice an offer of well-being to the Eternal, sacrifice it so that it may be accepted on your behalf." And there's a few more things here about sacrifices, and then it goes on. "When you reap the harvest of your land, you shall not reap all the way to the edges of your field, or gather the gleanings of your harvest. You shall not pick your vineyard bare, or gather the fallen fruit of your vineyard. You shall leave them for the poor and the stranger. I, the Eternal, am your God. You shall not steal. You shall not deal deceitfully or falsely with one another. You shall not swear falsely by my name, profaning the name of your God. I am the Eternal. You shall not defraud your neighbor. You shall not commit robbery. The wages of a laborer shall not remain with you until morning." And I know Renee's mentioned that that's one of my favorite lines in here, because that's the sentence that probably convinced me that I wanted to be Jewish, but I've preached on that before, so we're not going to talk about that today. You can ask me afterwards if you want. "You shall not insult the deaf or place a stumbling block before the blind. You shall fear your God. I am the Eternal One. You shall not render an unfair decision. Do not favor the poor or show deference to the rich. Judge your neighbor fairly." And I have to keep this in mind because I've been called to jury duty for the first time ever in the middle of this month.
This month.
Well, next May. "Do not deal basely with your fellows. Do not profit by the blood of your neighbor. I am the Eternal. You shall not hate your kinsperson in your heart. Reprove your neighbor, but incur no guilt because of them. You shall not take vengeance or bear a grudge. Love your neighbor as yourself. I am the Eternal." And it goes on for all sorts of things, and this is also where we read one of the 36 times in Torah. It reminds us, "When a stranger resides with you in your land, you shall not wrong him. The stranger who resides with you shall be to you as one of your citizens. You shall love him as yourself, for you are strangers in the land of Mitzrayim. I, the Eternal, am your God. You shall not falsify measures of length, weight, or capacity. You shall have an honest balance, honest weights, honest ephah, honest hin. I am the Eternal, who freed you from the land of Egypt. You shall faithfully observe all my laws and all my rules, for I am the Eternal One." I'm only going to read a small portion of that because otherwise, as you can imagine, you'd be here all day listening to me. So I'm going to call Robyn for the Aliyah, and my mind is not blank. I cannot remember your Hebrew names. You're going to have to remind me.
Helena, Yehuda. Helena, Yehuda.
Talmud, Yehudit,
Helena.
Yehudit Halela, but Avraham v'Sarah al HaTorah.
Ready?
Yep.
Baruch et Adonai HaBorach.
Baruch Adonai HaBorach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaBorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bacha banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'Torah.
Amen. וידבר אדוני אל משה לאמור, דבר אל כל עדת בני ישראל, ואמרת עליהם, קדושים תהיו, כי קדוש אני אדוני אלוהיכם. איש אמו ואביו תודעו, ואת שבתותי תשמורו, אני אדוני אלוהיכם. אל תפנו אל האלילים ואלי מסכי לא תעשו לכם, אני אדוני אלוהיכם. That is where we're stopping. Thank you.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan לנו תורת אמת, וחיי עולם, וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו. Baruch atah Adonai נותן התורה.
And now I need Philip back up here to raise this scroll. And we're also going to need the tires, the dressers and tires. And as soon as this gets switched out of the way, we'll need you, Joyce.
Romemu Adonai Eloheinu v'shagau l'hakosho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu v'shagau l'hakosho.
We praise you, eternal one, our God, sovereign of the universe. You inspired faithful prophets and took pleasure in the words they spoke in truth. We praise you, O God, for the gift of Torah, your servant Moses, your people Israel, and the prophets of truth and righteousness. And the Haftarah reading is from the book of Habakkuk. Woe to you who rake in unjust gains for the sake of your house, setting your nest high to escape harm. You devise disgrace for your house, shortening your life. For even a stone cries out from the wall, and a beam answers it from the panelling. Woe to you who build towns with blood, who establish cities with crime. Woe to you who make your fellows drink from the bowl of your anger, even to the point of being drunk to look on their nakedness. You shall eat your fill, not of glory, but of contumely. You too shall drink and stagger, as the cup in God's hand comes round to you, and disgrace supplants your honour. For the Torah, for the privilege of worship, for the prophets, and for this Sabbath day which you, eternal God, have given us for holiness and rest, for honour and beauty. For all these we offer thanks. May all the living come to praise your name forever. We praise you, O God, for the holiness of the Sabbath.
And we rise for the community prayers. Eternal God, we ask your blessing for our sovereign King Charles, for all those who govern our country, and all who influence the quality of its national life. May they be conscious of their responsibility, and we of ours, so that together we may fashion in this country a society with freedom, justice, and compassion at its heart, one in which diversity is respected and cherished. May the one who blessed our ancestors bless all our brothers and sisters of the house of Israel who enter synagogues to study, pray, and to give aid to those in need. May the Holy One, to whom all praise is due, hear their prayers and help them to fulfill their aspirations for good. We ask your blessing on the state of Israel and its leaders, that they may be inspired by the words of Torah and the prophets, to govern with justice and compassion, creating a society in which the image of God in all who live there is recognized and respected. Yahallelu et Shem Adonai, ki nizgav shemo levado.
Oda v'shamayim, v'yarem keren le'amo, tehila, l'chol chazidah, l'bnei Yisrael amkaro. Hallelujah, hallelujah.
This is the covenant I will make with the house of Israel in time to come, says the Eternal One. I will put my teaching within them and engrave it on their hearts. I will be their God, and they shall be my people. No longer shall anyone need to teach a friend or a neighbor to know me, for they all shall know me, young and old alike.
Ashirenu Adonai Elecha v'nashua Arei Yameinu Ekelet Arei Yameinu
Thank you. Thank you, Shabbat, to you. Here. She's not finished yet, so. And thanks to Joyce for reading the Haftarah today. You can all sit down, and Robyn can sit down. Only I have to keep standing. This week's double portion is a story in contrasts. Achrei Mot, which we didn't read, concentrates on how not to be like the people of Mitzrayim, from whence they had so recently come, nor like the people of Canaan, amongst whom they found themselves. Various violent practices are forbidden, those which were perpetrated as acts of revenge or humiliation. They reject, for example, child sacrifice explicitly. Do not give your offering to Molech. The section we read today, Kedoshim, begins the holiness code. This section looks at what it means to be a holy people. We are told, you shall be holy, for I, the eternal, your God, am holy. Holiness, then, is the highest level of human behavior when we are most godlike, when we live out the potential within ourselves by virtue of having been created in the image of God. For Martin Buber, holiness is not found by somehow rising to a level above our neighbors. Rather, it is found in relationships, when we realize the latent divinity in others and act accordingly by respecting and caring for them, and when we find ways to sanctify moments in our lives. From chapter 17 until the end of the book of Leviticus, we have a number of pronouncements for proper behavior. These are very wide-ranging. They show us a people struggling with their ideas of how to live, which differ and sometimes conflict with those around them. The subjects of these chapters range from celebration of Shabbat, to honoring one's parents, to refraining from idol worship, to the proper time to eat an animal sacrifice. Then it's off to agricultural law and then civil disputes. You shall not steal. You shall not swear falsely. Then you shall not steal once again. Leviticus goes on to the subject of contracts and disputes, enjoining us to be fair with our workers, to respect the disabled, and to be even-handed in judgment. Then there are the duties of the heart and a series of laws about what to think beneath what you do. Don't bear a grudge. Don't hate someone in your heart. Love your neighbor as yourself. And on it goes. It sometimes seems strange to find this discourse on righteousness embedded in the ritualized legalism of the rest of the book of Leviticus. But when examined closely, it teaches us the importance of context. At the center of ritual is the desire for righteousness. At the root of the law is the struggle to be a mensch. It is an appropriate reading for the Omer period, and today is the 22nd day of the Omer, making 3 weeks and 1 day of the Omer. This period of time between Passover and Shavuot should remind us that our ancestors did not immediately become free upon leaving Egypt. They had to learn to be free. They had to learn how to live as a people. And the sages taught that it was during their time in the wilderness, marked by the Omer period, that they learned to be responsible adults. They learned to pull together, to respect each other, and of course, to worship the Eternal One and not other gods. When viewed in this context, today's Parashah Kedoshim moves beyond being a simple collection of should and should nots. It's about the ways to unify our civil lives and religious lives in such a way that both are enriched. We cease being a slave people, but a holy people. Though we know that some rules from this parashah are no longer really operative in our lives, as they refer to practices of the idolatrous people among whom the Israelites lived, and we no longer really live in such a society, some of its rules speak to us profoundly when we consider them. They are as valid today as they were before. For example, later on in the parashah that I didn't read is the injunction to not sell your daughter as a harlot. At first glance, this can seem irrelevant. Yet today, women are still sold into sexual slavery by families so desperate they see no other way to survive. Surely this teaching goes beyond a simple injunction, but relates to many of the other rules that we have found in this chapter about constructing a society in which people will not become that poor and that desperate. In chapter 19, we find a number of rules and regulations designed to prevent that situation from occurring, some of which we just read. We're forbidden to gather all our produce, so that there's some left for those who must glean. We're told, when you reap the harvest of your land, you shouldn't go all the way to the edges of your field or gather the gleanings. You shouldn't pick your vineyard bare or gather the fallen fruit of the vineyard. You need to leave them for the poor and the stranger. We also find rules for being scrupulous in our business dealings, such as forbidding making workers wait unduly for their pay. These rules are designed to protect people so they don't become desperate enough to sell a child or desperate enough to resort to other things. Torah is not simply a book of laws, but a series of lessons on righteousness. It gives a glimpse of the struggle of our ancestors to express for themselves their understanding of divine will. It shows them grappling with the issues of the day and with their own theological questions. Those who put together Kedoshim seem to know all too well that while most of us might not commit an act of outright theft, we might be a bit careless around the edges, perhaps with our weights and measures. This first chapter 19 sounds remarkably like the Ten Commandments in some ways, as it forbids theft, idol worship, etc., and reminds us to keep Shabbat. It tells us all those things about being impartial in our judgments of our neighbors, not taking advantage of people, showing honor and respect to the aged. We're not allowed to take vengeance or harbor grudges. We must not go about as talebearers among people. We are to love our neighbors and ourselves. And it also contains one of the 36 reminders we find in Torah of how we should behave as we remember our days as a stranger in Egypt. When a stranger resides with you in your land, you shall not wrong him. You shall be to him as one of your citizens. You shall love him as yourself. For you were strangers in the land of Egypt. And these last three seem particularly apt. It's only just, not quite 2 weeks ago, we remembered the Shoah and what can happen in a society that fails to heed those rules. And it should strike a chord as we note the government's actions regarding those who seek shelter in our shores. The proper response to coming out of Egypt and of surviving the Shoah are the same, not seeking vengeance, but developing the sensitivity and will to ensure that some things do not happen to others. We sometimes focus on sensational aspects of Kedoshim and forget the many other words it contains, which we can use in our daily lives. Yet the latter is the purpose of our reading of it. It offers us many ideas that usefully can become part of our worldview and allow us to develop an ingrained response to ethical questions. Perhaps it's useful to think, as Zalman Schachter Shalomi Zikronom Livracha suggested, of Jew as a verb, not a noun. To really be a holy people, we must Jew. We must study and act. We must engage with these injunctions in this chapter. We must live them out on a daily basis, when they are convenient and when they are not. For us, passivity is not an option. Ours must be the voices speaking out for the stranger, even when the tide of popular sentiment seems to be flowing the other way. Ours must be the voices that demand respect for all people, regardless of anything really, of gender, sexuality, religion, place of origin. Ours must be the voices that stand up for respect for all people, recognizing that everybody around us is made in the image of God, just as we are, and we must seek to find and respect that within every person in our society. We spend a great deal of our time doing. We're all very busy people, but we must make sure that some of that time is devoted to Jewing. This parsha reminds us that the way we live on a day-to-day basis is important. The seemingly mundane decisions can suddenly leap into sharp relief and remind us. So the seemingly mundane discussions of business practices, forbidding false measures, etc., can suddenly leap into sharp relief and remind us that some behaviors have not vanished. And in fact, the heart of the holiness code lies in the phrase, "V'ahavta l'reacha chamocha," love your neighbor as yourself. If we can manage that, we can become the holy people envisioned long ago. Holiness is independent of one's age or surroundings. It's the dream of a better world and the desire to play our part in its coming. Holiness is the commitment to live these words that lie at the heart of the Torah. And then we will have done as we were told. As it was said, you shall be holy, for I, the eternal, your God, am holy. Can you hear that song? Let us be God's will. We're going to continue now with the concluding part of our service. So it's back to Robyn. Yeah, he's doing it then. So I think you need to turn to page 213 for "And Then," which we'll sing in lieu of Aleinu. Page 213, "And Then."
You can read in your siddur that this poem was composed, the words by, you want to read it yourself, what we can't read there, but what you know is that the music was composed by a member of the synagogue, Rebecca Cinnamon Knight.
In nature's ebb and flow, God's eternal law abides. When tears dim our vision or grief clouds our understanding, we often lose sight of God's eternal plan. Yet we know that growth and decay, life and death, all reveal a divine purpose. God, who is our support in the struggles of life, is also our hope in death. We have set God before us and shall not despair. In God's hands are the souls of all the living and the spirits of all flesh. Under God's protection we abide, and by God's love we are comforted. O life of our life, soul of our soul, cause your light to shine into our hearts and fill our spirits with abiding trust in you. As we get ready to say Kaddish, are there any names that people would like to remember for this week? Are there any names from people online? Okay, I'll give them a few minutes while I read the names that we have for the yard sites that we are observing this week. We have Maxine Fries, the mother of Andre Fries, the mother-in-law of Shimon Morad, and the grandmother to Guy and Nathan. We also have Bonnie Darley, the mother of Rabbi Janet Darley, and Basil Stone, the father of Ray Stone.
And we think of Dorian King, who recently died in this past week.
Still doing it? May their memories be for a blessing. Please turn to page 524 and stand for Kaddish. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbi, v'amat yivrak v'yutei v'yolik malchutei, v'chayachon v'yachon, v'chayet dekol v'yet Yisrael, v'charav v'zman farid v'yuru amen. Yehei shemei Rabbi v'varach v'elam v'mei amen. Yitbarach v'yishtarach v'yitpa'al v'yitmaseh. Yitkadal v'yizrei v'yitbarach shemei v'kushal v'arichu. V'elam kol v'hirtal v'shirtal. Tishkachatal v'nechumata. Da'amram v'ram b'mru amen. Yehei shalom Rabbi Mishmaya. Chaim Aleinu Kol Israel, Benru, Amen. Oseh Shalom B'Ramah, Huyaseh Shalom, Aleinu Kol Israel, Kol Be'adam, Benru, Amen. You may be seated. So
Thank you. There aren't too many announcements, are there?
yeah, we have some.
A couple? Good. All right.
Next Friday night is our Ruhani service, where we have a musical service instead of the traditional service. It starts at 7 p.m. and it's followed by our Havurah supper, which is at a potluck, so everyone brings a dish if you want to attend. There's no service. There's no service next Saturday and no Beitenu, but there are other services with other communities within liberal Judaism, so feel free to go online and check to see if anything's happening that you'd like to attend. Because of the coronation next week, that's why we're not having services. Are there any other announcements that we have? Okay, we are going to close with Maya Fe Hayom.
Yep. Not many words. Ma Yafe Hayom Shabbat Shalom. Ma Yafe Hayom Shabbat Shalom. Ma Yafe Hayom Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat
Robyn. That was, I think you all agree, a fantastic debut as a lay service leader. So I think we look forward to many, many more. Please rise for concluding benediction. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us today and every day to find the courage to make our lives a blessing. And let us say, Shabbat Shalom.